Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 7, Episode 50, overall 380 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is now on 2 radio stations weeknights. First with WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, and now on radio station CKRT, Border City Radio in Windsor, weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So that's 2 hours a night of Live with CDP Sports Talk. I'm really excited about our episode tonight here on this Thursday, March 21st, 2024. This is his third appearance on my show. Sometimes I talk too fast. His name is Brian Shanahan. He's a National Lacrosse League analyst. He's a writer for Indoor Lacrosse, 5-time Mann Cup champion, and Etobicoke Sports Hall of Famer in 2019. And I'm excited to have Brian on tonight to talk a little bit about the National Lacrosse League. Good evening, Brian. How you doing?
I'm very good, Chris. How about you?
Doing okay. Just watching my Red Wings. They're scoreless with the Islanders after the first period tonight.
Oh, that's going to be tight for that last playoff spot for sure.
I don't think that 7-game losing streak helped them, and they did get Dylan Larkin back, but I just don't know, Brian. I think they're just missing. I talked about this to a friend today, and I remember when Brandon came to Detroit in 96, 97, that was what they needed to get over the hump. And I think they're needing someone. Unfortunately, Brandon won't be coming back, but they need a power forward like him. Someone like him, an impact player, I think would make a difference on that team.
Yeah. Well, they're still young in the rebuild, but yeah, I think a number of teams could use a player like Brennan was in his prime.
So how are you feeling about the Toronto Maple Leafs going into the playoffs?
Like most Toronto fans, I'm optimistic but nervous. You know, you're ready to celebrate and ready to jump off a cliff. So that's how, you know, that's the life of a Leaf fan. So you always think this is our year, and then you live and die with them. But there's no question they have provided a ton of exciting hockey, you know, in the Austin Matthews and the Mitch Marner days. I mean, there's always a lot of fun things to see, but yeah, we want it to translate to the playoffs this year.
I was going to ask you this later, but before we get into the Lacrosse League, I wanted to ask you this now as a Leaf fan. In terms of all-time great Maple Leaf players you've seen in your lifetime, where do you rank Austin Matthews up there?
I think when he's done, like, he could be at the top, near the top, if not at the top. But I always think, winning a Stanley Cup always makes a big difference. Although it is so much harder to win a Stanley Cup now than it was in the 6-team league, you know, pre-expansion. So it's maybe not fair to say, oh, but, you know, Dave Keon and, you know, all the guys from the old days won all these cups when there was only 6 teams in the league. I think Darryl Sittler is one of the best Leafs of all time, and he never won a Stanley Cup. But having said that, I want Austin Matthews to win a cup. If he wins a cup and continues to score like he does now, I'd say there will be no question he will be the greatest Leaf of all time. But I don't think I've seen a player score goals like him ever. Well, you know, aside from Wayne Gretzky and maybe Ovechkin, but they were saying yesterday he's scoring at a faster pace than Ovechkin was. And, you know, Ovechkin, I don't think he's going to catch Gretzky, but he'll be close.
Yeah, he's only 50 goals behind Gretzky, but
Mhm.
to me, Wayne Gretzky is still the greatest player I've ever seen. And
No, I'm with you
800.
there.
Yeah, I didn't see Gordie Howe, but for me and my generation being 52, I would say Wayne Gretzky, and I still don't think anyone will surpass his 2,000 plus points.
Yeah, and even like I saw that season, I was probably early university when he got the 92 goals. And I remember it was all about, is he going to get 50 in 50? And he ended up getting 50 in 39 games, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think we'll ever see anybody come close to that year he had that year.
Absolutely. Hey, Brian, since we have you on, we'll talk some National Lacrosse League. I was at the game Saturday against the Toronto Rock and the Buffalo Bandits, and to me, that game,
Mhm.
it was an outstanding game, and to me, that might have saved the Bandit season with that comeback win. Were you able to watch some of that
Yeah,
Saturday
I
night?
did watch the game. I did watch the game. I really thought Toronto was the better team for most of that game. I thought the turning point was the 5-minute major penalty that Chris Boucher took I think it was the third period. As Toronto was
Yes.
up by about 4 goals, 3 or 4 goals at the time, and they really had. I think they had scored about 6 or 7 in a row, and I thought that 5-minute major gave Buffalo some life. I mean, they scored. I think they officially only scored one power play goal, but I think they scored a goal as the power play was ending. So they got 2 power play goals, and that got them back into it. And I think that was the difference in that game. And that's actually twice this year in the games. Toronto's lost both of them against Buffalo, and in both games, Toronto took a 5-minute major penalty that ended up costing them badly. And not only the fact that you could only score 2 goals on a 5-minute major on lacrosse, but it swings the momentum. So once it gets that momentum, especially if a team seems dead, like Buffalo did, Buffalo was nothing was going their way until that major penalty. And I thought it wasn't a smart play. I don't think it warranted 5 minutes, but I think more importantly, I don't think Toronto and Chris Boucher in this case should have put himself in that situation where the ref. I don't think there was a need for that. I don't think the hit was as dirty as. I don't think it was dirty. But I don't think it was necessary for him to come make that hit in the corner to give the referees a chance to make it that call. And referees are being cautious. They're they're more likely to make that type of call than not. So don't give them a chance to make that call. And I thought that was the difference in the game.
Brian, I wanted to ask you this. Why can't the league review 5-minute penalties? Because 5-minute penalties can affect a game huge.
They
So
can't. They do now. They
did they do
so
that? Okay.
so, but they do it on the spot.
Okay.
So what they used to do up until this year was the 5-minute penalties were reviewed later that week, and it could be rescinded. And some examples, there were some plays where coaches said, "Well, yeah, they rescinded a 5-minute major, but a lot of good that does us now." And it really does come back again. It always comes back to Toronto and Buffalo. Last year in the playoffs, Toronto's captain Challen Rogers got a 5-minute penalty, and I think Buffalo scored the 2 power play goals. But even after scoring the 2 power play goals and they're no longer shorthanded, Challen Rogers has to stay in the penalty box for the full 5. So without their captain, one of their best players, Buffalo went on a scoring binge. And later that week, uh, the NLL reviewed it and they said no, he didn't deserve a 5-minute major. And I think Toronto and maybe other teams said that doesn't do them any good at that point. So they changed. That was one of the reasons why they changed the rule. So now what happens is a referee, when he calls a 5-minute major, he can review it, or he does review it automatically on the spot.
Okay.
And I think that's a good rule. I really do. Now, what you do see now, if a referee's not sure, he's more likely to call a 5 than he would have before because he knows he can review it. And there are cases where they change it back to a 2, and I've even seen some cases where they've just said no penalty at all. Right? I can't remember if that's in hockey or lacrosse. I saw that, but I've seen cases of that. But what I think is it's a lot of pressure. Like even in Buffalo, like I'm watching that play and I'm thinking that's not a 5-minute major in my opinion. But you've got 17,000 fans in Buffalo watching, and you got a coach yelling at you. It's tough to rescind that penalty. And honestly, I don't blame the referees for giving 5. If they, I would have given them a 2, but if they want to give a 5, I think that's where I say, Toronto, the Toronto player has a responsibility to not hit somebody in the back when he's in the boards like that. So I think, but I do like that the NLL now will do an automatic review. The player or the referee will give a review right on the spot, and he can change the call or keep the call.
Yeah, the power plays in that game, Toronto was 4 for 8, Buffalo 1 for 6. But the games they've been at, the Bandits have actually taken a lot more penalties than the other team. But what I noticed in that second half, the Bandits to me in that second half were more disciplined and they stayed out of that box. I think
Well,
Toronto only had 2 power plays in that second half.
yeah, yeah, and you're right. Like Toronto was scoring on all the power plays in that first half, and yeah, in the second half, after Buffalo climbed back into that game, Buffalo was the better team, the rest of the way. So and good for Buffalo too, because they've been struggling off and on this season, and that was, like you said, that was an absolutely huge win. So the Toronto Rocks only lost 3 games this year. 2 of them have been against the Buffalo Bandits. Buffalo, I think, will tell you they've had a harder time playing the weaker opponents this year. Then they get up for the good teams, and they played well against a lot of very good teams, but they've had some bad games against some of the so-called weaker teams. They had a game against Vancouver 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think Vancouver's an improved team, but they Vancouver was the better team against the Buffalo Bandits that night, and they got the victory.
When you played as a player, Brian, certain teams might have more talent, but they don't match up. And it seems like the Buffalo Bandits, as soon as they see the Toronto Rock, they just forget what's going on in their struggles this season and play their A game. And they just seem to match up really well with the Toronto Rock. And the Rock are off to one of their best starts in franchise history as well. As a Toronto Rock player, after that loss, did that get into your heads going forward, and in case they meet them again in the playoffs this year?
I think it's hard not to get in their heads. Not so much that game, but the fact that they've lost to Buffalo in the playoffs and I think the last 3 seasons now, and that's, yeah. So when they meet Buffalo, they got to know that is their kryptonite in recent years. Playing the Buffalo Bandits, and let's not forget though, like Buffalo has been a fantastic team. The best team statistically in the NLL. I know they've only won the 1 championship, but going to 3 championships in recent years, they have been the best team, throughout the seasons over the last few years. So they're always a great team. But I do agree with you. It seems like no matter over the last since I've been following the Toronto Rock and the Buffalo Bandits, it doesn't matter whether one team's having a good year, one team's having a bad year. When they play each other, it's like a playoff game, and it's always a good game. They can always get up for those games. It's never a game where you feel like, oh, these teams, one of the teams never showed up. It's just like it's always playoff atmosphere.
I said to one of the players at the end of the game doing the media call, I said, I hope one day the NLL expands the season and also the playoff season, because I'd love to see one day the Rock and Bandit play a 5 or 7 game series.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah, that would be a dream come true, and not just the Rock and the Mann. And I'm sure NLL fans all over the league could tell you, out west they'd say that Calgary and Colorado and now San Diego and somebody like there are so many great rivalries in the NLL, and to see a long series, yeah, would be fantastic.
Wanted to ask you this question before we get going. I was at your son Devlin's first NLL start with the Bandits. Were you at that game? And what did you thought of how he played overall? I thought against Albany he played very well in his first start.
Yeah, I have to admit I never saw the game, and I was sorry if you hear my dog barking.
No
My
worries. I
dog.
love dogs.
Yeah.
Love dogs.
Yeah, I was actually doing a game for the Toronto Rock the same time that he was getting his first start, and I kept flipping over and checking the score on my phone. But I have to admit, I'm a nervous dad when it comes to my son especially because he's a goalie. I think with my other kids I'm fine, but being a goalie dad is so different. And And I never watched the game actually. I did go back and I looked at the stats and all that, and I from what I could see, it sounds like he played all right. They got a lot of power play goals against them, and Albany's a good team with a lot of good shooters. I mean, so of course he would have rather got the win, but I don't think. I think he played well for his first game. I felt bad watching his second start against Vancouver, where I thought that. Sorry about that. I thought that it was a.
No worries. No
He'll
worries.
stop soon. One of my sons is coming out the front door, and this is what our guard dogs do. But I thought that it was a tougher one against Vancouver a few weeks later, where it was just a real sloppy first half, and and I think he got pulled when it was 7-4. But I'm still very proud of. It's tough being a goalie. It's tough being a young goalie, and he'll get his chances. He's still young, and it's at some point these young goalies get a chance to play, but you've got a great goalie in Buffalo with Matt Vince, and when you've got a goalie as fantastic as he has been forever, you're going to use him until he's gone. And I know Vince had an injury early. He's back. He got to win his first game back. So he's not only is he one of the best, if not the best goalies in history of the NLL, he's a great leader on that team. I think the team plays. You could almost see the confidence lift when he's in the net. And that's no critique on the younger goalies, either my son or Steve Olderman. I think it's just the fact that, when you've got a goalie, when you're a player and your goalie's won championships and been there before, you play with a little more confidence. But Devlin will get his chances, and so will Steve Olderman. I think he's a great young goalie too. And I'll just be the nervous dad watching them when I get my chances.
What are your thoughts on the Bandits' recent acquisitions of Connor Farrell, who's a face-off specialist, and veteran defenseman? I accidentally made a mistake and called him Phil Dawson, the Cleveland Browns kicker, Paul Dawson. Yeah, he laughed about it, but I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on those two players being added by the Bandits recently.
Well, I don't know Connor Farrell, but I first game I saw him play was winning faceoffs, and that's what they got him for. It's pretty much for one job, go out there and win some faceoffs. And it's funny because some teams are big believers in the importance of winning lots of faceoffs, and some teams don't think it's that important. Now, everybody will agree late in the game, whether you're up by a goal or down by a goal, it's nice to have a guy who can win that faceoff. And I think Buffalo has sort of gone back and forth on that, because I've seen teams sometimes lose 28 out of 30 faceoffs and still win the game. So, and I think some people tell you statistically over the long haul, it doesn't make a difference. But I think they decided they needed a guy to win the faceoffs, and I think he's done a good job since he's been there. Paul Dawson, on the other hand, I think they've got Dawson not just to help on the defensive end, because they've had a lot of injuries. They've had a very tough year on the injury front, especially defensively. But they love his leadership. They love his he is not the player he was when he was younger. He's about 38, 39 years old now. So he obviously not going to have the same legs, but he's got the smarts, and he will go to bat for his teammates. But he's a leader on the floor and in the dressing room, and he can help all those guys. And he is still, I think, as good as anybody on the short man. So I think that was a smart pickup to get Paul Dawson on that team, and he's a great guy too. Paul Dawson and his brother Dan Dawson are both Hall of Famers as far as I'm concerned. Even though Dan's the one who put up all the points, but Paul Dawson's also been a great defender through his long career in the NLL.
Brian, obviously both are veteran players, but how hard is it for those guys to come into a new city, new team, new system at this point of the season?
I'm sure that's part of it. Learning, especially if teams are playing different styles defensively. I got to think it would be harder for the defensive player than the face-off guy. For the most part, his job is there's an expression they use they call it a FOGO, face off, get off, and really that's his job. It's a bonus if your face-off guy can also go back there and play some defense. And like I said, I don't know Farrell that well, how strong his game is or not, but I think they want him for the face-offs. Dawson, if the defensive strategies are different, or on Buffalo, he's smart enough he can pick them up very quickly. So I don't think that's a big issue at all.
Because I know the Bandits were missing their face-off specialist last year, Max Adler, who I guess I don't think he's going to be back this year. But to
Yeah,
me,
I think he went to work or had a job out of town or something. Yeah.
But to me, covering the Bandits in media, I find them having those extra possessions with that offense. Josh Byrne, Dane Smith, Nanako, Chris Kluche. The more possessions they have with that offense, I just think I think for the Bandits, for an explosive offense like that, winning those faceoffs and getting those extra possessions, I think, especially in the second half of the game, is critical.
Well, it's funny because it's a constant debate, like how important is the face off in box lacrosse, and I kind of love that it's a debate that never seems to end. And when a team like Halifax with Jake Withers, who will win 30 out of 34 face offs, they'll say, see, you're trying to tell me face offs aren't important. But then on the other hand, when it goes the other way, you'll have just as many people say, oh yeah, this team lost most of the face offs and they still won the game. But I agree, there is a point in every game where it doesn't matter what side of that argument you're on. If you are making a comeback and you're winning the faceoffs, it seems very important. And or if you've got the lead and you win every faceoff, it seems very important. Or you're into overtime or whatever, you're in that critical point in the game, one goal behind or whatever. Then you are glad to have a guy that can win the faceoff. So obviously, I think Bandits think it's important to win a faceoff, so they made that move.
Definitely. Just quick thoughts on the upcoming games for the Bandits and the Rock. Buffalo is at Panther City, and I already talked to John Tavares about this, and he says we're going to be ready to play because the Bandits have struggled on the road this year at 2-4, and then the Rock are at home Saturday night at 7:00 against a very tough Halifax game, and I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on those two matchups.
Well, I'm going to be doing the Toronto Halifax game, so I'm really excited about that, and I think they are two good teams. I mean, in Halifax, 8-6, they're in fourth place right now, so they're looking to, secure a home game. They want to finish in the top four, secure a home game where, Toronto wants to finish first place. So and not only that, as I mentioned that Buffalo's had Toronto's number recent years. Well, Halifax kind of feels the same way about Toronto because Toronto's been the team that's knocked them out of the playoffs the last few years. So I think this is a huge game for Halifax. They want to prove that they can beat the Toronto Rock, for the same reason that Toronto's feeling a chip on their shoulders every time they play Buffalo right now. And as far as the Buffalo game in Panther City, I like the Panther City team. I think they're very well coached. Tracy Koleski, good old Peterborough boy. And they made the playoffs last year. As of now, they're in a playoff spot right now. They're missing one of their best scorers, though, in Callum Crawford. And, the game I saw them play last week, it looked like they missed him. But, they're always going to be competitive. So, but what I will say is, Buffalo has struggled this year. I don't think Buffalo is going into any more games this year overconfident. It may have looked like that at times this year, but I think that's out of their system now. So I think they know they have to earn everything regardless of who they're playing. So I think Buffalo's going to be up for that game.
Because the Bandits are obviously, most teams are much better at home than they're on the road. But for them to start on the road in that one game winner go home round, it's pretty critical to get that number 4 seed. So they're just going to have to take care of business and get some help from the teams above.
Yeah, and I think Buffalo's got they've got 5 games remaining. 4 of them are on the road, so that's going to be very tough. Panther City, they got the Wings and the Colorado before they come home to play Calgary, and then they're off to Vegas at the end of the year. So they're all winnable games for them, but there's no way in the NLL nowadays that you could pencil in a game say that's an automatic win because every team that I mentioned there can get a victory against you.
I've only been following the league for a couple years now, but I find in a couple years the talent level and the competitiveness of this league have gotten better. And you're right, John Tavares even told me, he goes, "There's no gimme games in this league,
Mhm.
regardless of your record or not."
Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There was a time where you could sort of look at that schedule and say, well, this one's an easy one, or maybe players in the back of their minds would say, oh, I'm going to rack up my points against that team. No, it's not happening now. The talent level is so good throughout the league, and coaching. The coaching is fantastic throughout the league too. So every team gets prepared. They all have tape on each other, so every team is prepared for each other now.
Okay, Brian, I just got two more questions I wanted to ask
Sure.
you. This one, what I'll reward it. Sorry. Do
Okay.
you like the National Lacrosse League's new unified standings and how it's set up for the playoffs?
I do like it. I do like it. And it's not like, I know some people felt last year, or with the East and the West, that it wasn't fair, or that it was a kind of weird situation. It didn't really bother me that much, but I have to admit I like this format better. You're getting the top 8 teams are going to make the playoffs, and I think it just seems so simple. And I do also like that, you are rewarded. If you finish first place, you're rewarded by you getting to play the eighth place, or eighth seeded team. Even though we've been saying there's no gimmies at all, but still, I'd like to see them go back to that in the National Hockey League, where it's 1 versus 8. And so I really like that. And and I get the feeling that most fans and lacrosse people like this unified standing as well.
Overall, how do you like? Overall, how do you like the direction of where the National Lacrosse League is going?
I love it, and I love the fact that, being a Canadian guy, I love the fact that we got some more Canadian teams. I think it's great for television, for lacrosse on television in Canada. The more Canadian teams you have, the more the Canadian networks, and now TSN's doing a great job, televising so many games. So next year we got Ottawa. I'd love to see a team in Montreal again. Maybe Winnipeg. But I think, from my selfish point of view as a Canadian, I think the more Canadian teams we have, the better for us up here in Canada, to get our games on TV and to get them exposed, and and to grow this great game.
Why do you think the NLL didn't work out in New York? And do you feel long term Ottawa will be a very good National Lacrosse League city?
Yeah, I can't tell you why it didn't work out in New York, but I do think Ottawa will be. Ottawa had a team years ago, and it's close to 20 years ago. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. And I did broadcast for games there. Um, I don't think Ottawa was the lacrosse market. Well, I know they were not the lacrosse market that they are now. Lacrosse in Ottawa, minor lacrosse is huge in the Ottawa area. There are so many NLL players from the Ottawa area, but I also think it's a little bit different. In the early days, the last try in Ottawa, it was the Toronto Rock ownership that, they struck gold. The owners of the Toronto Rock, the Bill Waters group, struck gold in Toronto, and they were trying to do the same in Ottawa. They tried to do the same in Montreal, and I don't think they had the same patience or stomach to have a slow building process. So, in other words, they were hoping to strike gold in Ottawa. It didn't have immediate success, and they gave up on it a few years later. Now I think the NLL has made it. Well, they are not an expansion team. They're getting a good team with one of the best players in the world in Teat. In the old Ottawa days, they only won a couple of games a year. So now they are getting potentially a playoff team, but they are definitely getting one of the best players in the world. But I think the ownership group, like all ownership groups, have to have some patience, over the years. It can't be, let's give it 1 year and see how it goes and we'll change our mind. No, they gotta invest, the time and effort. But I think in that market in Ottawa, where there's a huge minor lacrosse contingent, I think it's going to work well.
And quick thoughts on the box series, I guess Toronto, New York, and Laval, Quebec. And you really feel Montreal would make a good lacrosse city again?
I do, but I think you need the right ownership group there that's in it for the long haul. And they had an enthusiastic crowd there. And I did games there, with the old Montreal Express. They had enthusiastic crowds there back then. I just felt that, you had one ownership group that owned three teams, and they were not going to year after year lose money, and while they were making money in Toronto. So I think you need separate ownership groups. You need a strong ownership group. So I think it all really depends on who owns the team, and if you can get a team in Montreal with a good strong ownership, I think they will do well. It might take some time, but I think they can do well. I believe lacrosse is a great game. So I think if you sell the game to an area for long enough and bring it to the fans, get it on TSN, and do all those things, I think the fans will catch on. When lacrosse started in Toronto with the Toronto Rock, it was primarily the hockey fans who turned into lacrosse fans. It was just hockey fans giving it a try,
Yeah.
and it sure helped that they went 8-0 at home their very first year and won a championship. Winning always helps. That same thing happened in Saskatchewan when the Rush moved from Edmonton to Saskatoon. Winning their very first year makes a big difference, and it really helps a new franchise.
And that did that with the Bandits too. They won 92, 93, and 96. So they won 3 championships their first 5 years in the league. All right, Brian. One last question. We'll wrap it up. I'm going to put you on the spot here. How do you see the 2024 National Lacrosse League Championship Series? Who do you see possibly getting there, and who do you think could wind up as the champs this year?
Who do I think is going to be?
Oh, I think we lost Brian. Oh, guys, I'm just wrapping it up with Brian Shanahan. I was just asking him who he thought would be possibly playing in the National Lacrosse League Championship Series and who ends up as the champ. So hopefully we can get Brian back on. If not, I want to say thank you so much to Brian Shanahan for coming on. He is a TSN National Lacrosse League analyst. He's also a writer for Indoor Lacrosse, and he's also a former lacrosse player, 5-time Mann Cup champion as well. And I was just trying to get Brian's thoughts on the end of the season, which is coming up. There's about 5 regular season games left in the National Lacrosse League season, and right now Toronto is 11-3, San Diego's 10-4, Albany's 10-4, Halifax is 8-6. Buffalo is the number 5 seed. The defending champs are 7-6, and then number 6 is Georgia at 8-7. Number 7 is Rochester at 6-6. Number 8 is Panther City, who's 6-7, who take on the Bandits this Friday night at 8:00 in Panther City or Fort Worth, Texas. You can listen to the game on 1520. The Bet in Buffalo is John Gerkler, the longtime play-by-play announcer for the Buffalo Bisons. Going back to the standings, Saskatchewan's number 9 at 5-6. New York, who's going to be Ottawa next year, is 6-8. Philadelphia is 5-7. Calgary's 5-8. And the Colorado Mammoths, who have been to the last 2 NLL finals and beat Buffalo in 2022. The Mammoths are 4-9, and they're not looking like they're going to be a playoff team this year. And then Vancouver is 4-9, and Vegas is 4-9 as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Brian Shanahan for coming on. I was hoping to get his thoughts on his prediction for the National Lacrosse League Championship Series, who he thinks he'll get there, and who ends up as the champs. But Brian will be on the TSN National Lacrosse League Game of the Week this Saturday, March 23rd, when the Halifax Thunderbirds take on the Toronto Rock. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Pat Gregor, who does a great job with Halifax Thunderbirds as their color analyst. And he also does the Game of the Week alongside John Abbott and Ashley Dawkin. Pat is a hard worker, and he is has a great knowledge of the game of lacrosse. I've just started following the game about 2.5 years ago, and I'm still learning about indoor lacrosse or box lacrosse as well. And I'm looking forward to these games this weekend. Every game in the National Lacrosse League is huge with only an 18-game schedule and them having unified standings. So there's no more divisions, no more East-West. It's basically the top 8 teams get in, and then the first round, the first 4 teams get home field or home field advantage against the road teams. And in a 1-game playoff series, you want that game to be at home. And the Buffalo Bandits are so much better at home than they are on the road. And the Bandits now, like Brian was saying earlier, their next 5 contests are on the road. They're at Panther City Friday, then they're at Philadelphia the following week, and then they're at Colorado before coming home on Saturday, April 13th against the Calgary Rednecks, and then they finish the season on the road as well. So for the Bandits, it's going to be important. They're going to need to win some road games to give themselves a chance to get into the top 4 seeds in the unified standings. Because if you know Bandit land, the Buffalo Bandits average, I don't know, 18,000 fans a game. They have the best fan base in the National Lacrosse League, and it's important for the Bandits to get that first series, especially at home at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo. And if you've never been to a National Lacrosse League game, check out their website, nationallacrosseleague.com or NLL.com, or the Toronto Rocks website, torontorock.com, and bandits.com as well. So again, there's a whole bunch of games on this weekend, but the games I'm focused on are the Bandits at Panther City, which is huge for both teams, 8 o'clock Friday night. And then Saturday at TSN, you'll have Halifax and Toronto. I'm not sure if it's the TSN game of the week, but Brian will be doing the game as an analyst for the NLL, I believe. I will find out from my friend Pat Gregor when the next TSN game of the week is. But every game right now is huge, and I'm just excited for the start of the playoffs coming up as well. So that's about it. I want to say thank you to Brian Shanahan for coming on. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties at the end. I was just hoping to get his predictions on the championship, who he thinks will play for the NLL finals this year as well. So, guys, before we wrap it up, I'm going to play you a little clip of the Bandits Rocks game from Saturday night at the KeyBank Center. I was there, and I'm just going to play this on. This is courtesy of the Buffalo Bandits YouTube channel. Just bear with me.
Schreiber trying to make the most of this possession. Shoot, scores! 2 quick ones for Toronto, and Schreiber follows up Bushi to give the Rock a 2-0 lead. And as you mentioned, those two know each other from summer lacrosse as the Bandits find the back of the net again. What a move from Chase Fraser. 2 losses Toronto suffered this season to this point. Bandits back to work. Smith again. Oh, what a drive and a goal from Dave Smith. And the rivalry kicks into full gear after the fact. Very short power play window. Bushi. Now to Matthews. Looking to the side. Bushi scores. What a quick stick finish for the hat trick. Chris Bushi, 200th career NLL point. Power play goals this season. Entering this game tied in the league in that category. Matthews, too small. Over the top, scores! There's the power play trigger man with his 4th of the game. Smith backs off. Takes a look. Smith. Dish, and they bury on that one, Josh Byrne. Had Cree to have that one come out. Smith to Byrne, shoots, rising shot missed. That one finds the back though, as Etobicoke gets the loose change and buries for Buffalo. Smith, some room, shoot, scores! Put the team on his back. Get it as well. Toronto trying to answer back. Schreiber behind the back, nice setup. Bushi scores! Oh, filthy from Tom Schreiber, setting up Bushi. And ties several times, now down by 2. Byrne shoots in desperation, rolls the stop. Where's that ball? At the side, Buffalo gets one. Kay sneaks it in when no one else could find it. It's a look over to Josh Byrne. Byrne finds an avenue. Around Cree, Byrne leaps, shoots, scores! Air Byrne takes flight, and Buffalo comes back to take the lead.
That clip was courtesy of the National Lacrosse League's YouTube channel. Please subscribe. And the call was from TSN's John Abbott alongside Pat Gregor and Ashley Docking. And again, that was like a playoff game between the Rock and Bandit before 18,000 fans there. I did a game night story. Type in live with CDP, wordpress.com. And it was an exciting finish. And the Bandits, they were trailing 10-8 after the third quarter, and they outscored the Rock 6-2. That was probably the most complete quarter the Bandits have played this year, and hopefully they can carry that momentum going on the road this Friday night against Panther City as well. Also, guys, I wanted to let you know that I have some news. The next Live with CDP Sports Talk will be on Monday, March 25th at 10 a.m., and I have a special guest, and her name is Kirsty Krause. She is a recording artist, a host, and a BMI songwriter who just released her latest single called Beaches Be Crazy. So this will be Kirsty Krause's second time on my show, and she's going to talk about her latest singles, Beaches Be Crazy, and she's currently right now on a tour of the UK as well. So note the special start time, Monday, March 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern, as she is on UK time, and I believe they're about 5 or 6 hours ahead of us. So I'm excited to have my friend Kirsty Krause on to talk about her latest single, Beaches Be Crazy, and hopefully you guys can tune into that as well. Also, guys, if you're in the Guelph area, check out VP Tailors, who specialize in women and men's alterations, dry cleaning. They're at 926 Paisley Road, Unit 2 in Guelph. You can give them a call at 519-826-5250. And a shout out to VP Tailors. They do a lot of work for me there as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is now available on radio station CKRT, Border City Radio in Windsor, weeknights Monday to Fridays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Check out their website, CKRT-BorderCityRadio.com. They play the best soft rock music of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And a shout out to the station manager, to Donna Tuckwell, for bringing me on her station as well. Also, guys, as always, Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, is always on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on my Instagram page at Chris Palme, thanks to StreamYard. Also, you guys can check out my official website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my media work and previous radio shows and social media sites are on that site, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. And speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, the refreshed 2024 Trailblazer, 5.49% financing for up to 84 months. Eligible Costco members can receive up to a $750 Costco gift card on select SUVs. More details at barrycollin.com. And I do have a Chevy Trailblazer, a 2023 model, and I love it. And I highly recommend Trailblazers. If you're looking for something that's reliable, good on gas, and is very comfortable to drive, I highly recommend the Chevy Trailblazer. But also, they have some other great vehicles at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. So check them out again, barrycullen.com, or just pop by 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Also, guys, I am a content creator on TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok at Live with CDP. You can follow me there at Live with CDP, and you'll see a lot of my player coaches interviews and some reels and clips for my previous radio talk shows as well on TikTok. So again, at Live with CDP. And I want to say thank you to my 2,049 followers. Obviously, I'm not Logan Paul, but I am just happy to have over 2,000 followers and really appreciate the support. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting such as yours truly, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, or they have plans like professional plans that I have, $49 US a month. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or live streaming or podcasting, StreamYard.com and contact the sales department for their prices as well. And I've been a proud customer of StreamYard now for 3.5 years, and they do a great job. And if you do have an issue once in a while, their IT department are great customer service. Highly recommend StreamYard. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and Tuned In. Finally, you guys can email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, any feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And I also want to say thank you to Jennifer and Melissa from the Business Education Partnership of Waterloo Region Speakers Bureau. I was at a local high school in Kitchener yesterday talking to high school students about my career, my education path, and finding your passion. And I really want to say thank you to Jennifer from the Business Education Partnership of Waterloo Region for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to doing some more future public speaking with high school students as well. Because when I was in high school, I did okay in school, but I didn't know what I want to do. And when you're a teenager, it's hard. Some people in life, younger in life, they know what they want to do. For me, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and they didn't have this technology back then as well. So, but the importance of education in the classroom or when you're out of the classroom, it's always important to continue to learn. And I really want to say thank you to Jennifer and one of the teachers, Melissa Church, for letting me come down to a local school there yesterday as well. And that's about it, guys. Detroit Red Wings tonight, big game, 7 o'clock against the Islanders. When I saw it last, it was no score after one period. The Red Wings are in a playoff spot right now, but they're in a fight with Washington and the Islanders in Buffalo. And Captain Dylan Larkin is back in the lineup tonight for the Red Wings. So hopefully Dylan Larkin and the Red Wings can get another win and 2 points tonight. They're coming off an exciting 4-3 overtime win against Columbus the other night, where Patrick Kane scored in overtime. But Lucas Raymond was a big hero because he scored the tying goal with 12 seconds left as well. And the Capitals lost last night to the Maple Leafs 7-3. And the Leafs' next game is Saturday, March 23rd against Connor McDavid and those Edmonton Oilers. And that's about it, guys. Again, I want to say thank you to Brian Shanahan, National Lacrosse League analyst, writer with Indoor Lacrosse, and a five-time Mann Cup champion and Etobicoke Sports Hall of Famer in 2019 for coming on here tonight. And thank you to everyone watching this live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, and also on Instagram. And the show will be available on all my audio platforms in the next 20 minutes as well. And that's about it. Again, the next Live with CDP Sports Talk will be Monday, March 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern with my special guest, Kirsty Kraus, a singer, songwriter, musician, and we're going to talk about her latest single, which is coming up very soon, called Beaches Be Crazy, which will be released on Friday, March 29th as well. That's about it. I hope everybody has a great evening and a great weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday morning at 10 a.m. with Kirsty Kraus, and we're going to talk about her music career, her UK tour, and Beaches Be Crazy as well. Again, thank you to Brian Shanahan, and Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, and on weeknights at 8 on WQEE 99.1 FM, and weeknights 7 p.m. on CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor. So that's about it. And we'll see you guys this coming Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the March Madness basketball, as well as the National Lacrosse League games and the NHL as well. Great time of the year for sports. See you guys on Monday at 10 a.m. And thank you for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk.